Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is David Talbot. I'm Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities, and I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on uranium today. So we're going to hear from F3 Management, Uranium Management. That's Dev Randawa. He's Chairman and CEO. We've also got Ray Ashley. He's a VP Exploration of the company. So during today's webinar, they will provide an overview and outlook, and then we will take some questions. We'll get to as many questions as we can. Please put them into the chat box, and we will take a look. So before we kick things off, first we need to discuss the fine print. Now, during this F3 uranium webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I direct listeners to the forward-looking statements outlined on page 2 of the company presentation. That can be found on the company's website, f3uranium.com. For Red Cloud Securities, I'd highlight this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors, and participants should really rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. So please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on F3 uranium. So with that, I now turn it over to Dev and Ray to update the audience on the company. Take it away, guys.
Well, thanks for having us on, David. We're very thankful for our relationship with you. We've been with you through the J Zone when you originally at Dundee, and then your great job at 8, and so we love being here and talking, and I learn sometimes about my own project listening to you. Well, obviously we've had a great discovery back in third week of November. I don't know what to say, but it was one hole. The question is it going to be the best hole we've ever had, or is it going to get better? Well, we've assayed all the holes we did in 2022, and we put out synth results since. So from my perspective, the growth going forward is really the drill bit, and that's why I sleep well at night, knowing that the team's led by Ray. We've done it twice before. That's why we call it F3. Those who don't know us, we made a discovery at the J Zone at the end conformity on the east side of the basin. We took a drill hole, turned it into a deposit, sold it to Denison Mines. And then we took what remaining assets we had, and we started a company called Fission Uranium, FCU, which exists today, doing very, very well, led by the competent Ross and McElroy. So that's done well. And when that happened, we spun out again our property. That's why it's called F3. Meaning that investors, make them comfortable that this team has taken 2 deposits before from a discovery into actual deposits. Now, where this one will go, I don't know. Our strategy is to follow the uranium, follow the geology, where it goes. We made our first discovery hole. We obviously went up dip towards the sandstone, went down. Then we also stepped out, further away. So now the last results were pretty encouraging. We found some more high grade over 60,000 counts per second, 30 meters away, and some mineralization north. So we've hit on most of our holes. The problem, David, is that it's hard to explain sometimes to investors that it's not a big block of uranium. It can be a blob of uranium, then nothing for 100 meters, then hit again. If you look at, the triple R, it's a necklace, but it's a flat necklace, and with all the, wonderful uranium in it. And some deposits, like Arrow, they're sheets, right? So we're still learning a lot about this. And the whole idea that we're funded well for is the program in the winter is to understand this, listen to the geology. Where is it going? That's what the 20 holes will be about. We've done roughly a third, and we'll hopefully we'll report on 3-4 more soon. There's a strategy to it. we follow from before is we have 2 rigs. One sticks around the area trying to learn more about it. Then we do more bigger step outs with second rig. We have a sonic rig as well with both of the heavy, hard overburden, but that's what it is. So that's our overall strategy, is to use those two rigs accordingly that way. So that's what the winter program is about. And what I'm going to do now is, talking about strategy. Ray, maybe you can talk about what did you learn from maybe the J zone and triple R that's going to help you here to take this into a deposit someday.
Oh, sure, Deb. Look, maybe I can move forward and show a slide. But, when we started with the discovery hole, it was a phenomenal discovery hole. The question then became, how do we follow this high-grade core, and how do we follow the mineralization? So we had to be disciplined at the start with small step outs to try and understand if this mineralization was going up to the unconformity and what was its geometry and disposition in the ground. So that's how we started this in the fall and at the beginning of the winter program. So as Deb says, by having understood the J zone deposit, which was all at the unconformity, and then discovering the J zone fission uranium triple R, and learning there that the mineralization at R00 was flat lying, and the next pot of uranium, a few hundred meters away, was now steeply dipping. So that's how we started this winter program. We're really happy with how it's gone. We put out a news release on February 8th, which described the first 8 holes of the 20-hole winter program. 7 of those holes were mineralized. 5 of them intersected high-grade mineralization greater than 10,000 counts per second. And really, the most significant thing was the step-out hole on 30 meters south of the section line with the discovery hole. And that hit, again, wide mineralization, 14 meters wide, which is, really a significant thing. And off scale, again, greater than 65,535 counts, 30 meters south of the discovery hole. So we're learning the attitude and geometry of this beast, and we're now progressing along strike to extend the strike length of the zone and towards the south with that important intersection on section line 30 south. So there's the discovery core. There's the drill core. That is the discovery hole, and you can see that's almost the full 15 meters with 6.97%. I'm trying to get to the slides to show you the cross sections.
Yeah, I think that's something to, those who've never been out to the property, uranium's great that way. You get, when it comes out, it's high pitch blend, it stinks, it's all dark, you got high grade. And you put a scintillometer, which confirms it. And then you get the assays later. So we know pretty well right away, and we're following. So when we say we're doing, another 4 to 5 holes, and we'll put an announcement, we're doing exactly that, is that we can get feedback right away and try to find where the big core of this deposit is. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, so if you look at it, this is a view of the A1 main shear zone. You can see the discovery is where those red balls are. That's the radioactivity in the holes when they were drilled in November. And you can see that the discovery hole was a 730 meter step out to the north from hole 1419 that you see on this map. Hole 1419 is where in 2019 we drilled along this conductor and got a sniff of uranium. And what we'd recognized from this is a conductor that we kept coming back to because we saw all the right signs for uranium. And that 730 meter step out is what's intersected the high grade. Now we're working our way towards the south, 30 meters south. And we're continuing, the drill program right now is continuing to the south to try and extend the strike length. Really, that this hole 34 is below the depth of the mineralization. So that whole strike length is really open. It's open to the north as well, but the strongest mineralization to date was to the south. That's why we're progressing to the south. So here you look at the plan map. You can see the discovery hole is PLN 2235. That was 15 meters of 6.97% uranium with high grade core, 5.5 meters of 18.6. And you can see the holes, the follow-up holes. We started really close. And now this hole 48 is the one that's hit wide mineralization 30 meters to the south. And now we're progressing in that direction. This gives you an idea of this is the discovery hole to give you an idea of the depths. So vertically, there's 120 meters of sandstone of overburden, really tough to drill. That's why, as Deb mentioned, we're using a sonic drill. So we're able to drill shallow angled holes so that we get close to true thickness. The sandstone is about 60 meters thick, and our discovery hole in the zone that we're following now is about 204, 205 meters from the surface. So it's nice and shallow. It's on land, which means that we can drill virtually year round. We have to stop in the spring so we don't create ruts, let things dry up just when the snow melts, and then we can be back at it in the summer. There's no need to build ice. So we have a long drilling season. Here you can see we defined the zone. Down the main shear zone is that brown. This is a cross section of line 0. The hole that the section line that the discovery hole was on. And you can see that we defined the mineralization up and down dip within the main shear zone about 45 meters in east-west direction in that about a 50 degree dip of the main shear zone. And along strike in and out of the page, it's now 50 meters. So the strike length of the deposit as at February 8th was 50 meters measured along the strike of the main shear zone and 45 meters east-west down the dip of the conductor. And if you just going through some of these sections, this is the section to the north, and we drilled the up dip hole and the down dip hole first, and then recognized that it probably the high grade core snaked between those two holes, and we drilled that third hole and did hit the zone. So it is there heading towards the north. It just looks currently stronger going to the south. This is the section line. This is 15 south. And then here it is on 30 south, 14 meters wide, a 4-meter core of greater than 10,000 counts per second, and off scale in the middle here. So that's, a nice wide zone. That's really, it's a very significant thing to find that width, shallow, wide, high grade. It's really very pleased about how things are going. And this is, an example of what stands to be along this conductor. So far, we are continuing to extend it. But there can be, if you look at RRR, that's a plan view, you can see the scale bar there is a kilometer. So you can see that there's several high-grade uranium zones and that there's gaps between them, as Deb just said, pearls on a necklace, so that there could be more than one zone. And that's the idea, is now we're getting a handle on the orientation, we're considering to have one of the diamond drills stepping out and doing bigger step outs. Right now we're continuing to follow the zone, and you can see if this is a cross section. R00 was a flat line thing. 780 East was steeply dipping sheets that plunge. At one end, they're near the top of the basement and they plunge down. If you look at arrow on the right here, those are 4 shear zones, and that they're really relatively short in strike length, but the uranium mineralization goes vertically downward. So we have to keep an open mind, and there can be more than one pot of uranium here, and they might have a different geometry that won't be discovered so far.
Yeah, and also, on that, the project is very, very big, David, 100,000 acres. And what's refreshing to me is to see next gen drilling right on the border between our PLN and their Arrow, which we're quite excited about. They're drilling about 4 kilometers from, about 2.5 miles from the discovery hole, and we feel like this conductor, can be quite pregnant. Obviously, with time will tell on it. But that's just one conductor. We got the Brudge conductor. We got several places to look at PLN. There's enough there work for a decade. But obviously, we have 15 other projects. Murphy's obviously something we look forward to drilling this year. Some work done on Cree, Hardy Bay. One thing that we're able to do with our track record of finding a high grade, we've been able to raise money in tough times, and that's when you buy assets. Every one of our projects were staked by us. We didn't even buy them. We staked it for, which is, peanuts on your credit card. So our team has done a great job in bear markets putting this together and very systematically getting them drill ready. Drilling is very expensive in the basin. It can cost $250,000, $400,000 a hole depending on what's there. So, but for $250,000, you can do an amazing full summer of work, winter work, and really narrow in, because there's certainly, you're looking for conductors, you're looking for alteration, bleaching, there's all sorts of things. There's a slide in our thing. But anyway, the point is, we've got this project, which has 3 or 4 conductors, Murphy Lake, Cree Lake. We're an asset-rich company. We've got to be careful how much we spend. We want to dilute ourselves, and et cetera. So maybe we leave some questions. I know some people have asked about consolidation or not and all this. So, but David, I'm going to let you lead the questions going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dev. Thank you, Ray. Great informative presentation there. So we are going to kick off the Q&A. Reminder to everybody online, you can type your questions into the chat box and we will get to as many as we can. So let's start here, guys. You've always been really drawn to this PLN project. I think you've been exploring it for a while. I think I was first on site about 10, 11 years ago. What is it about this property that gives you an inkling that there was a uranium discovery to be made?
I'll leave that to Ray.
Yeah. Look, we started drilling that A1 conductor in 2014, and we started at the south end of it. And, right away, Sam Hartman, Kanan, geologists that were there for the discovery of the J zone and the drilling and, definition of the J zone and then triple R. And right away, it was clear that this was a nice wide structure. It had all the right signs. Before even getting the geochemical assays, it had intensive hydrothermal clay alteration, really a big damage zone, wide big damage zone. The sandstone above was highly altered, clay altered, and with signs of silicification, all the right things that tell us that there's been hydrothermal fluids that have been flowing along this reactivated shear zone, bringing in multiple events of alteration. So then the geochemistry came back, and sure enough, there was elevated pathfinder elements. And so we continued to realize that this is the right kind of structure that brings in the fluids that, are accompany uranium mineralization. So we drilled towards the north, realized that this was the right kind of structure, and came back again in 2019 to keep drilling there. In 2019, we finally found, as we went north, hole 1419 hit. It's very low, very weak mineralization, but 0.04 something percent uranium. So it's really low. But all the other signs were there to tell us to keep going back. So much so that we then drilled, even though that follow-up drilling around that didn't hit any high grade. It still told us to come back, which we reviewed everything at that point before coming back at the end of 2022, and realized that all the signs were improving towards the north. And that's why we went to the untested northern 800 meters of the conductor, and defined that with ground geophysics, and then started right there. And it was the third hole at the north end of the conductor that hit the high grade. So it's just, yeah, I'm lucky to work with experienced people. We're the same team that's been around. We all work so well together and recognize these things. And it's, we're able to get our teeth into this thing. Dog with a bone is what they say, And, that's how we got there.
Yeah, Ray, you said you found some pathfinders, and now besides uranium and alteration, what helps you target these deposits? Is it boron and dravite? Is it base metals? What are you looking for? And maybe are there differences between what you might see for an unconformity versus a basement deposit?
Well, I don't know. I'd say that you're exactly right. It was boron and dravite were the main things that guided us. Boron is a key. Dravite, boron-rich minerals, that's a key. And the pathfinders. There was elevated nickel and copper. It's all those things. I wouldn't say really that there's a way to tell a difference between whether the mineralization will be basement or unconformity. Just those signs and the alteration, the structure, the silicification, the clay alteration and the bleaching, just the intensity of all that hydrothermal alteration, that's what had us continue. And we could see over as we started at the south end and drilled in 2014 and 2019. That's, over a strike length of probably 2 kilometers. And over that whole strike length, the conductor still looked, showed evidence of large-scale hydrothermal fluids flowing through this reactivated structure. So, yeah, I can't say that we would be able to differentiate between what the attitude of the high grade would be if we got to it. But we just knew that the chances were really high to find mineralization along that conductor.
Yeah, it's all about chasing those signals. Deb mentioned some of the challenges early on. These Athabasca basement deposits are really discontinuous. I look at the latest section 30 meters to the south of Discovery. It looks good, much like the Discovery section. The section in between looks okay. So, do you think that the whole 48 that was just announced recently can really be comparable to the Discovery hole 35?
It's going to be in that ballpark for sure. That's going to be a really good hole. And these deposits are like that, though. I mean, when they can be just 10 meters away, adjacent holes, they can change in grade and thickness drastically over short distances. It's just the nature of them. So, the next hole over can be a big, fat, incredible intersection. In the end, it's really the width is an important thing. The fact that it's got a high grade core that we're now able to follow, that's a key. A lot of the mineralization in this zone is going to be from the high grade core, and the key is to be able to follow that. It's small. It's a hard thing to target with a drill, but the sonic drill's working beautifully. Our holes, we're able to get them where we want them. Deviation is a big problem usually with overburden that's that difficult to drill. This whole thing of applying a sonic drill has been beautiful. It's working and it's getting more and more efficient as we go. We're learning how to bring the cost down because it was a new thing to bring. I don't think it's been done really for people to bring a sonic drill to put in casing. I don't think that's commonly done. It's something an idea we came up with that's now working really well, and it's allowing us for the holes to go where we're aiming, which is not as straightforward as it might sound.
No, I think Canadians are used to drill core.
Well, so, we are, and John, as I was talking to a couple of guys in the U.S. and what's crazy, completely irrelevant. There's all sorts of 3D seismic done on oil up to the Canadian border. None on the other side. On this side, no one does geophysics on uranium either. So it's not like everybody's got it together. We're all learning from each other across borders. But anyways, I saw some questions about raising money, consolidations. So unless there's other questions, I can address those if you like, David.
Why don't we get to that a little bit after the geology questions, Dev?
Sure.
I've got them in my schedule here. So, I guess Ray, have you really learned anything in the first 3 or 4 drill sections now? Drilling that might help you vector in on the zone, or really is your plan to go from known to unknown, systematically step out 15-meter centers? What's sort of your plan here?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened. By starting close to the two section lines from November, we went up and down dip to understand the extent within, vertically within the shear zone. We got a handle on that, and the plunge is what we were looking for within the shear zone along strike. Once we thought we were onto that, we started stepping out, and we hit the nice intersection on line 30 south. That's the direction we're now heading. Since February 8th, we felt confident to start stepping out rather than defining it east-west, up and down dip. We've gone right ahead, stepping to extend the strike length towards the south. That's what where we're headed since February 8th. And as Dev said, we will be putting out a news release again shortly to update people with how that continuation of our drilling has been going, this 20 holes. We, as I said, we have it defined over east-west. It's 45 meters wide, along strike 50 meters long. So, there could be something even further down dip, but to start with, we need to follow the zone. Our discovery hole went into this zone where it did. And it's, in a way, that's just, you don't know where you're hitting it and how the rest of it is around you. So we're just being disciplined and following the mineralization. We've got a handle on it. I mean, keep hitting the high grade core as we're stepping out along strike. That's what we're going to keep doing. We'll carry on doing that until we really get to the end of that. And then we'll be going back to section lines and going up and down dip to then do the same thing, define it east-west in that direction as well as along strike. But we're step outs are really growing it a lot and quickly, and that's the goal. We want to try and expand the zone. That's what we're finding is working for us right now. That's what we're concentrating on right now. Then we'll go back to sections up and down dip. Eventually, what the mineralization we found is only 25 meters or so below the unconformity. Whatever that number is, 205 meters from 180 to 205, I guess it is. So, it's very conceivable that the mineralization will come up to the unconformity and that we might find, like ISO's hurricane, we might find mineralization, flat-lying mineralization at the unconformity. The key is, and we have been going up dip on section 0 and continuing to hit mineralization as we go above. The key is to figure, to not haphazardly test the unconformity for high-grade mineralization. The key is to have a target. We want to miss. We don't want to miss. We're trying to grow this thing. Expanding it means intersecting it. So we want to take our time. And I think that strategy's really proven out for the start of this winter program. Taking our time, getting a handle on what's going on, stepping out along strike is what's working in the short term.
Okay, so if I get your gist, you still want to step out. This is open in all directions. You still want to step out along strike and at depth and up dip on the basement deposit, but you also want to target that intersection between the shear zone and the unconformity.
Correct. To look for mineralization at the unconformity that would be flat-lying. The key, though, to me is we have to have a target, and so we've got to keep at it until we learn more, and then there'll be at one point there's going to be that's where we got to go and look for mineralization at the unconformity and try and find it. That'll open up a whole other target.
Do you think there's potential for parallel zones here, like you might see at other basement-hosted deposits? You see it at Triple R or Arrow or Griffin.
There is. We thought about that early, David. Right on, very early on. To the south near 1419, we drilled a hole at the beginning in November in the fall program that went clear across the corridor. In fact, to look for just that, to try and see if there were other parallel shear zones rather than just the one main shear zone. Down there was not. There was just the one zone. It doesn't mean that further up to the north where we are now, that's like getting to be, 700 meters away. There could be parallel shear zones. We don't see evidence of it so far. Like Arrow with four parallel shear zones. So we understand the potential for that. But so far we haven't seen it. We'll keep, we're going to keep open-minded about that. And at some point we will be drilling holes again in key locations right across the shear zone again to look for other parallel shear zones. And absolutely that it could easily be there and offset a little bit, especially if we find the end of this first zone. If we find the end of it, then it could be offset. It could be offset down dip. It could be offset along strike. But right now, we're just staying in the nice juicy zone that we've discovered and growing it. And it's we're very happy with how that's going.
Yeah, and you're still drilling it off in each direction, right? You're still moving it to the north, even though to the south it probably looks even better.
Yeah, we absolutely will.
It does.
But we will
absolutely
be
it looks better.
as well.
But Ross picked that out and Ray picked it out. Remember that one drill hole we put way down south, about 850 meters away, David? I think you talked about the hole, but that hit smoke. And what it did for us, of course, the market ignored it. We said, we found a corridor. We've now along this, we see the conductor now. We see this with this conductor going through here. And, we kept saying, these are things we look for. And that's exactly what we finally said, taking one right to the bottom and come down. And then we've hit. Because going down south, it doesn't matter if it was north, but obviously, some investors are concerned that we went onto Orano's land. Well, again, chill, because we knew that was the border. But when that conductor stopped, we just went another 150 meters and stopped, right? And that was enough. And so we're not sure anything is there. We'll find out one day if Orano drills right there. But we know on the other end of the situation, NextGen is definitely drilling. They announced the other day. They believe that there might be. Well, I hope they're right, David. As I said to Lee, I said, I hope you're right, Lee, because that's a few kilometers away.
It looks like an offset conductor, not the same conductor that we're on. As Dev's saying, the conductor the A1 conductor ends very close to that property boundary. And David, 15 north intersected mineralization, but it's not as wide or as strong as what we've hit on 30 south. So going to the south, we're just following the mineralization is what's been the widest, best looking mineralization. So we're carrying on that way. It's absolutely open to the north still. Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody gets upset when there's property boundaries, but the more property boundaries are, it means that more people want that ground. So, so that's a positive in my eyes. So you have 2 rigs right now drilling 20 holes this winter. Is there a chance you'd be able to add any additional holes to this program and just keep going while you can? While there's
we can. That's something that we'll discuss. And we certainly got enough money to do it on our own. But that's a decision that Ray will make with his team. Well, we can raise money quickly. That's not all. But, my own preference, this is not the company's, is to look at what the results we come back with, right? If there's an overwhelming reason to keep going, great. It's just weather conditions when it gets too muddy in the spring. That's the only thing that will hold us back. I don't think we're not exactly the shyest group in the world. We'll be aggressive if we need to. But the problem, the moment you talk about money, the stock falls. Oh, they're going to do a financing. Let's all sell it. That kind of weird stuff that happens. So I right now we've got enough money for 20 holes and maybe more because we have, we'd rather under, promise and over deliver. It may not be 400,000 a hole. It might be less, right?
And it's looking a lot like that, Dev, because things are getting so much more efficient with the drilling. The new things we're trying are working really well.
So we may do more than 20 holes right there alone, but you know how it is. You got to be conservative in that. So we'll do that. We'll raise monies if we need to, but there has to be a reason to dilute yourself. Right now, the stock trades well. And it brings me to the question, if you don't mind me saying, people are going to roll back again. No plans to roll back unless it's tied to an event. You know, if you get listed on New York, yeah, you roll back because you have to have that minimum thing. But you roll it back like 2 days before you list, not months. You don't do that silliness because the stock won't have less liquidity. And no, our plans are to stay the course, follow the geology. You know, we've got a strong technical team, but I also think we've got a strong financial team. You know, we raise money. The old saying Rick Rule always said was, raise money when you can, not when you have to. So, you know, on the back of some great holes, maybe some assays, sure, raise another 10 million. You know, Ray, when do you think it'll start to get too wet up there to drill? How much of a gap is there? A month? Is it a few weeks? Or
It'll be about a month. It'll be about a month. We're good till the April sometime.
Yep. Lots
and
of drilling
to get soft, and then by May 15th, or it's gonna have dried up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we don't want to create ruts. We want to be stewards of the environment. We want it to look as much as as possible. So we'll stop when it gets soft, and the guys will need a break too. It'll be good to have a bit of a break. Well, to reassess, it doesn't hurt. While we're doing that in real time, it doesn't hurt to stop and really consider everything again. But our program, we're really happy with the way things are going. It's that's what we have to do, is expand this zone. We know it's a high grade zone. We know it's got some width to it. We know it's shallow. The question in everyone's mind is, how big does this zone stand to be? Does it become a deposit? That's what we're focused on doing. That's how we add value in the
show. And that's sort of the target of my next couple of questions. You discovered the zone just less than 3 months ago. When do you believe you'll be in a position to quantify the uranium that you have there? People are asking already about resource estimate potential timing.
Well, geez, I don't know how soon that would be. We have back of the we're tracking that, and we have a geological model, and the same team that was doing that all along with J-Zone and Triple R are building that geological model as we go, and they're trying to create an interpretation of all that and trying to get an idea of those volumes. It's early days. It takes a lot more holes than we have so far to come out with estimates like that. So I think it's still a ways away before we'll be coming out with actual volumes. We're going to be talking about the strike length and the area over which mineralization is defined, and then people will be able to see the thicknesses from the drill holes and the grades from what we report. That ourselves putting out those numbers, I think it'll be
I'm pretty sure our PA on Triple R was 18 months or 2 years out. I can't remember. Maybe I'll check with Ross, but we did a PA, in the second or third year. I can't recall, but
that's it.
But absolutely. I mean, look, that's what all of us are sitting here. How big can this be? That's the question in everybody's head. What I encourage people to say is, the team's done this twice before. They understand sandstone. That was the J zone. They understand the basement because that was Triple R. Now this might have both. That could be lovely. But I sound like British there, lovely. And then, I think we've still got around 10 million in cash. So, but it's easy to raise flow through, as you know, and you can raise them at a very strong premium, like last time. We'll have enough money. We're going to be aggressive as we can. Same time, you want to get X number of people, so many rigs. But time will tell whether we've got X number of pounds or not. But like people have said, there's only 125 meters by 45 ISO, but wow, look at the grade. So you don't know whether this structure, or necklace as I would call it, how many blobs of uranium or which way it sits. We don't know. But we love the step out that we've done, and we should have a few hopefully done in the next few days and see where we sit.
Yeah, you mentioned ISO's hurricane deposit there, Dev, and people are making the comparison here. You know, I note they're a little bit different deposit types: hurricane sandstone hosted, and you're looking at basement hosted. But I think, you know, the viewer means, you know, you're still looking at shallow, small footprint, high grades. You know, how would you say this deposit is comparable to ISO?
Well, look, I think a key here is where it's located. That would be the first thing I'd say. Okay, where is this thing? It's 25 kilometers northwest of where Arrow and Triple R are located. Arrow and Triple R have completed their feasibility study. That's poised to be the next area of development of uranium in the Athabasca Basin. There's gonna be a mill there, and big mines are gonna be operating not long from now, 25 kilometers away from the discovery we've just made at the JR zone at PLN. That is very attractive. It's 204 meters below the surface. You know, conceivably, that's something that can be mined reasonably, you know, like it's close to surface. It's something that, even if it's not a huge deposit that could be a standalone mine, we have no idea. But even if it's not that, given the proximity of the high grade mineralization we found to the mines that are, you know, going to be developed there, it makes it an attractive thing. The location is key. Look, it's shallow. That's the thing. I'm not a mining engineer. I don't know how to go, you know, that has to be established. But it's a good thing that it's shallow, and, you know, and in the basement there, that's, you know, attractive.
Yep.
Okay. You know, we don't know if this will grow to be, David. So far, so good. Look, I hope it keeps going. We don't even have to concern ourselves yet with the next pod, the possible next pod along strike. We still haven't found the ends of the first one we found. So, you know, we don't know how big this thing will become.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. So just to change gears here a little bit, and Deb, you touched on parts of this. You know, there's a lot of noise online and Twitter right now about your a potential share rollback in a U.S. listing. And this viewer does believe a U.S. listing does make sense, but they feel that the share consolidation would be premature. And I think that's what you said earlier.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, you know, a lot of information out there is just fake news. I've never said we're roll back. The only reason you would ever roll back, it's got to be tied to an event. That's common sense in our industry. You know, I've talked to the Canaccord folks, I've talked to Sprott, everybody. You know, and the wonderful thing about listing in NYSE is that you actually apply, takes you 2-3 months. If you get it, okay, you're in. A couple days before that, you roll it back. And, you know, but the reality is, you know, 10 times more people in the U.S. We need to get to that market. It's so hard to buy a Canadian stock down here, as you know, I'm in the winter in Scottsdale. It's so tough, you know, and we got to make it easier. Because one thing I notice is that stocks that are listed there versus Canada only, when uranium news comes out, they jump right away on the opening. The others will lag. They don't get the same volume either. And remember, it's not the stock you buy often as much as it is the industry you buy, with lithium or uranium, whatever. So, yeah, we won't. There's no rollbacks, nothing considered, unless it's tied to an event. Otherwise, not a chance.
Okay. And you've taken a lot of steps, spending money to market the company. You've raised money here. Why do a lot of that now rather than once you have a better idea on what type of deposit you have? You know, essentially let the rock.
It's just math, just pure math. If you can spend $1, and you know, we oftentimes do exercise warrants and stuff like that. And if you spend $1 and get $5 back, I'd be a little ticked with my CEO if he didn't take an opportunity for that. So it's about bringing in, you know, it's funny they ask us that, but they never ask questions, you know, of the companies listed in New York, how much marketing they do and everything else. To me, I want everybody to know this is a great discovery hole, or we're going to build it and stuff. So yeah. And I guess what might a recession do
to impact the way you
This
can
was
raise funds? Oh, sorry. Why don't I ask you, Ray, any plans for other projects outside of PLN?
Well, sure. There's already plans to work on Hardy Bay. That's a option agreement, Traction's earning in. So there's plans to continue with Hardy Bay. And Murphy Lake is clearly a project that's gonna, that warrants follow-up work. So we're looking at drilling at Murphy Lake again, likely in the summer. There's no requirement to do that from the point of view of keeping the ground in good standing, but the results were encouraging. A sniff of uranium. And that we still have to press release those final results, and that's something that's coming. But clearly that warrants more work at Murphy Lake. So that's somewhere else we're going to be looking at working. I mean, we have to keep our eye on the ball. The ball is PLN. The ground's in good standing. We really have to keep growing that deposit. That's where we'll concentrate our efforts. But there's 16 properties, and a lot of them have potential. And clearly Murphy Lake is the second best to me right now. That's something we're going to be planning to work there in the summer.
Okay. And then also, I'm assuming you'll be able to go back to PLN in the summer, correct? You're drilling on land. Everything should be dry.
Absolutely.
It's accessible by road. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's straightforward to take a break just when the snow's melting and the ground is soft. As soon as it dries up, yeah, we can get right back at it. Or sometime early May, I bet May 15th, something like that. Things have dried up and it's time to go. We're able to get right back at it.
Yeah. And Deb, you said your cash balance right now, 10 million. So what's your budget? Your expert
Well, we
budget?
spent about half. We raised the 8 million, and we probably spent 4. We had 15, so we were down to about 10 and a half. I'll get the latest numbers. We're spending a lot of money every day, but we have about 7 million hard cash. That's the hardest thing to get. Because when you take hard cash, you take it at a discount, right? From bankers. So that's why we worked very hard at, getting people to exercise their warrants, because there's no cost to that. It just comes in the tail. Our next step will be to raise more. And we don't have a big overhead despite that. And like I said, everything's math. You spend $1 on marketing, you get $4 from warrants while you do it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the main reason you do some marketing. And really, the reality is, that there's a lot of, uranium companies out there, and you got to get your face up front, right? So, and that's what we're doing. I'm trying to learn from, David, I said to you, I'm trying to learn from people who've done it, who've done a better job marketing than we have in the past. I'm trying to learn from them. Maybe, so it's never too late to learn.
Yeah. And like you said, Rick Rule said, raise money when you can, not when you need it. Yeah. So how might a recession impact the way you can raise funds?
I think the recession won't. Recession might impact the overall market, which will depress, key parts of this, the overall market. People are scared to buy stocks. They'd rather put the money in the bank, but also, selling pressure on all of them. So you'll still raise money, but you won't raise as a higher price. And I still think the recession and spot price of uranium are not related at all, in my view. We don't talk about it enough, but there's, roughly 3 billion people in the world have no electricity or very little, and they have brownouts and stuff, right? That's 3 billion people. And they need power. They need cheap power. They need power that's clean and etc. And so we're just starting. I mean, this energy crisis isn't something, something on fake news. But the problem in North America is we sit here and we go, oh, well, we got hydro, we got this, and we live in a dream world. But just go visit your friends in London. $1,500 a month just to heat their home. Some are $3,000 to heat your home. And they got small homes, not like, in Texas. So it's a real problem we've got in the world. And nobody, and I used to scream all the time, you got to have energy security. But you know what? People got lulled. And Putin was very smart. He made sure he controlled the natural gas. Now he controls, 40% of the uranium enrichment. And we got lulled into believing, oh, this is okay, and and that's why, I think uranium from Canada is very important. I think it's not from Russia, and I believe it's the second best place in the world next to Kazakhstan in terms of cost, and that's why I think uranium, anybody that we find in North America is more valuable than ever. So I don't think the recession will impact it. Recession could impact the power ability of spot to buy more uranium, get this to make the spot price rise up, and overall general markets. It's a bad day in the markets. Doesn't matter. You'll see nothing but red. It doesn't matter what stock you're in.
Yeah,
So
it's all about the discovery. I think both Arrow and Triple R, Fission and NextGen did well in a pretty crappy uranium environment. So
we did, and exactly, because I believe everybody listening to this needs to have an exploration stock. Everybody. Sure, you can buy the physical, but you need a chemical, you need a developer. But you got to have something with upside. And that's why I think, we're a good vehicle for people who like, hey, how do we get decarbonization? How do we get energy security? That's uranium. But if you want to be with a company. Look, our stock's going to go up with the price of your spot price tomorrow goes 60 to 70, which it can. If you think about it, they're buying uranium right now, $70 in the US, the government is, off the utilities. So is that the real price? I don't know. But imagine a $70 price, what all these stocks would do. So all uranium stocks are going to go up. But imagine if we can grow this into an ISO hurricane or something. Look, it offers a duality, F3 does, over other uranium stocks around that we're just starting the discovery. It took ISO at 200 holes in 2 years. Thankfully these guys have done it twice before. Maybe we can get there quicker. I don't know. All depends on the geology. Like Ray always says, our winter drilling is all about learning the geology. Not, as you mentioned, looks like going south, we're getting some good numbers. So obviously we'll keep stepping out, but we're also going to test up north. That's the advantage of having 2 rigs.
Okay.
Just
So
if I can
certainly-
speak about cost,
Sorry,
just quickly about cost. This is a new technology that we're applying to this discovery, and that's because we wanted to drill shallow angled holes, which wouldn't be possible without a sonic drill. And that's to get to be intersecting a dipping structure at 50 degrees with roughly perpendicular to the structure. If we were using only a diamond drill, we'd have to drill steep holes, and it's just not the best way to do it. So it's a phenomenal team in the field. There's 2 program managers that are completely focused, excited about this is a brand new discovery, but focused on cost. And we've figured out now it's big improvements on the sonic drill, telescoping, starting with 8-inch casing. It telescopes now down to 4, 8, 6, 4 3/4 at the end. And the sonic drill is now getting all the way to the top, all the way through the overburden and into the top of the sandstone. In November and at the beginning of the program, it wasn't getting all the way. And the diamond drill had to case the last part. And it's really tough conditions for the diamond drill. So holes were taking a lot longer than they are now. So these improvements are really, substantially bringing down the costs. And that's the key. It's being able to drill these holes and expand this zone, each hole costing less and the efficiencies. So it's really, there's a great team of people applying their energies to this, to solving this thing. And
by the way, our cash position is 12.2. I think it was Brian or somebody else who asked. We have 12.2 million in cash.
Yep. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. So I guess last question here. You'll be speaking at Red Cloud's pre-PDAC conference. I think it's March 2nd and 3rd at the Sheraton Hotel. Will you also be attending PDAC this year?
Yeah, I'm coming to both. Ray has got some stuff on, but he'll be there for parts of it. I'm coming in on Thursday night, do the presentation Friday, and then we'll start on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, something like that. So
we'll have a booth at the PDAC.
Yep.
Okay, great. No, and just for people out there, if you want to go to the Red Cloud conference, pre-PDAC conference, you can sign up at redcloudfs.com. So guys, with that, Dev Ray from F3 Uranium, I want to thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you, David, for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. Red Cloud Securities will be back next Tuesday when Tim Lee sits down with Churchill Resources. That's February 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, David.